It's election day, and of course, Democrats have lied all year long to get to this moment where they might just win 3 major elections. And if they can't win it with lies, they'll just steal it with regular polling place shenanigans. There's a whole lot of troubling stories coming out of the New York, New Jersey area. We'll share them for you coming up in just a second. Also, Whoopi Goldberg absolutely loses her mind on the set of The View yesterday, and it's hilarious. We'll show that to you. And Nancy Pelosi, it's reported now, might be bidding a fond farewell to American politics and exiting stage extreme left. We'll tell you what we know about that report. We'll take a quick look at Nancy in recent days and also who might replace her. The devil you know is always better than the real demon who's waiting in the wings. All that coming up and a whole lot more. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Subscribe to our channel, no matter what platform you're watching us on, whether you're tubing with us over on the YT or you're one of our Rumbler OGs, or maybe you're watching on the Book of Face. Wherever you're watching us, and of course across the Town Hall Media platforms, please go ahead and give us a subscribe so you become part of our growing family. And while you're at it, I promise you, you're going to like this show today. So give us a like right now. Give us a preemptive like. If you like this video right now, our audience nearly doubles in real time by the time we're done. It's incredible the way that works. So give us that like and share your comment down below too. Will you be sad to see Nancy Pelosi leave the political stage? What's your favorite Nancy Pelosi memory? This one? Or maybe tearing the speech in half or something else? We got to vote for the bill before we learn what's in it. Whatever it was, give us your favorite Nancy Pelosi moment down in the live chat or the comments section. Folks, there's a war happening right now. It's probably not where you think. It's not the war you're thinking about immediately. No, this is the war in your gut. It's a battle between good and bad bacteria. It determines your health and overall quality of life. Kimchi is a traditional Korean food. It's been used for over 2,000 years for its remarkable health benefits. And the Korean people, well, the results are in their great health. Kimchi One from Brightcore Nutrition. Kimchi One. It's a fermented superfood your body needs to arm the good guys with the right weapons to defeat the bad guys once and for all. All health starts in the gut, and I mean all health. Putting the right fermented superfood in your gut improves every aspect of your life, your heart, your brain, quality of your skin, the growth of your hair. Containing over 900 strains of beneficial bacteria in each capsule, Kimchi One supports healthy digestion, fortifies your immune system, and helps detoxify your body. Kimchi has also been known to reduce the risk of obesity, promote smaller waistlines by curbing appetite, and naturally boosting your metabolism. Kimchi One, all natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, 100% made in America. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by going to mybrightcore.com/Larry and then use the code Larry for 25% off. But if you want an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call now, 888-462-4779. That's 888-462-4779. It's election day. This has sort of been your go-to place every day to give you the latest on the elections in Virginia, our backyard, plus New Jersey and New York City. And, well, as history generally would prove out, the year after a Republican wins the White House, Democrats have a very good night. It's looking like Democrats will have an okay night. And listen, winning is all that matters, but if they win tonight in all three of those jurisdictions, setting aside New York for a second, in New Jersey and Virginia, if they win, it's going to be way tighter than anybody ever expected, like super slim. If they win at all, there's still a chance that Republicans could actually upset the Democrats in those races and shock the world. New York City, of course, is a different matter where you've got a loathsome, hated, corrupt Democrat, Andrew Cuomo, running against a pro-jihadist, anti-Semitic, Democrat, socialist, communist. Can't blame Republicans for that one. That said, because of all of the shenanigans and all of the concerns and the fact that Republicans are keeping it tight, we're seeing some strange reports right now from some of these jurisdictions. Let's start in New Jersey. The mayor of Cumberland, I believe it is. You can tell by the backdrop here that it's probably a more conservative part of the state. He's complaining that suddenly this morning, as voters were showing up and turning out overwhelmingly to vote for the Republican candidate, the machines began malfunctioning.
My name is Mike Rothman. I'm the mayor of Down Township in South Jersey, and we're currently experiencing some poll machine problems in both of our two districts in Down Township. District 1, the machine is still not working as of now. 35 people are going to cast their vote there, and they're all still doing write-in provisional ballots. In District 2, the voting machines that were not operational until 7:10 this morning. I have 4 to 5 residents that were turned away, not given a provisional or write-in ballot. They told them that they would not be able to come back. They had to go to work today, and they didn't have an answer resolved for them to cast their vote. And I can honestly tell you that I'm appalled, not just as the mayor of Down Township, not just as somebody that served in the service, and it's not allowing somebody to exercise their constitutional right to vote. So anything that can be done, the attention that's put on this matter is greatly appreciated, but we are right now in the middle of everything that's wrong with this system. Thank you.
Yep, no one voting right there in, well, I mean, I shouldn't presume that it's a conservative Republican area of New Jersey. I mean, God knows Democrats love exercising their Second Amendment right too, right? Right? I mean, just look at Tim Walz. Every 4 years, he dresses up like Elmer Fudd and tries to shoot a duck. They love the Second Amendment. You know, the Second Amendment, our founders put it in the Bill of Rights so that you can hunt duck. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Yeah. So there's that problem. Also, elsewhere in New Jersey, we had reports this morning of bomb threats shutting down polling places.
Threats forcing voters out of at least 2 polling places in New Jersey as residents across the state cast ballots for their next governor. And Mark Meredith is live in Montclair, New Jersey with the latest. Mark, what's going on?
Ainsley, Lawrence, and Brian, good morning, friends. The polls have been open throughout New Jersey since about 6 a.m. Since then, a handful of bomb threats have been called in to a number of polling places across the Garden State. We know in Mercer County.
Hey.
As well as where we have seen it
coming after our machines, too.
Passaic. It's unclear exactly how many of these polling places have been impacted, but because the polls were open, since they've been open since 6, a number of people who may have been in line or getting ready to go vote had to move off-site to other voting locations, at least temporarily. We've been at this elementary school here, not too far from where some of these threats were called earlier, because this is where the Democratic gubernatorial nominee is going to be voting. Mikey Sherrill should be voting here around 9 a.m. I just spoke to her campaign. They are aware of the situation impacting some of these polling places. The candidate is likely to address this when she gaggles with reporters in the 9 a.m. hour. All an indication, though, again, that there is a lot of people very curious what will happen here in New Jersey. The spotlight has been on this race nationally, and we have seen this before in other elections. But these potential threats, whether or not it's going to have a widespread impact on turnout, it's unclear. More than 1 million people cast their ballots ahead of Election Day. There was early voting, mail-in balloting as well. Where we are also, I've seen at least one police officer who was outside the polling place earlier. Unclear if it was related because the candidate was going to be here or if they were just checking things out. A lot of these threats are often communicated electronically, either email, they get sent to the registrar's office or the voting records office, and then out of an abundance of caution, these facilities are either evacuated or they pause operations to let the police do a sweep. No indications of anything found at this point, simply threats. But on an election day like this, given, of course, the political climate that we are in as a country right now, officials across New Jersey are not going to be taking this lightly. And I'll let you know if we hear from the Chitterelli campaign. He was with Fox and Friends in the last hour at a restaurant, so we know he's been out on the trail.
Yeah, and of course, he references the political climate we're here in this country right now. That would be the political climate that involves leading political organizer and activist and commentator and talk radio host Charlie Kirk being assassinated in cold blood by a crazed leftist Democrat. And then, of course, the president of the United States surviving 2 assassination attempts in the last calendar year and a few months. and ongoing threats to President Trump and Republicans with the verbal assassination prep, calling all of us fascist and Nazis and Hitler. Yeah, that's the political climate he's referring to, the one brought on by violent leftists who call themselves Democrats or Democrat socialists in this country. It's a hell of a climate. I remember when Andrew Cuomo in the debate, we're hopping across the Hudson now to New York City, when Andrew Cuomo during his debate with Zohran Mamdani asked New Yorkers to conjure the image of a national disaster or some sort of a horrific scene in New York City under the watchful eye of the untested, untried, basically up until a couple of years ago, unemployed and inexperienced Zohran Mamdani. He said, what if we have a hurricane or a snowstorm or a blackout or, God forbid, another 9/11? And then everyone screamed, oh, that's Islamophobia. How dare you raise 9/11 when it comes to Zohran Mamdani? Please, shut up. You want to be mayor of New York, you need to imagine what happens if there's a 9/11. Okay, well, let's check out Zohran Mamdani, the candidate on Election Day, reacting publicly in real time to the bomb threats at polling places. What's his reaction? What's his statement? How does he conduct himself as an experienced, reasoned, seasoned national figure ready to take the reins of the city in a moment of crisis? Let's see how Zohran Mamdani did.
Incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
I don't know if he's going to get that question again today, but the general approach the Trump administration has taken to try and intimidate voters.
Yeah, before we let our friend Kennedy chime in on that, wow. Let me just add my commentary here. As if I was invited on the panel at Fox. What do you think of that, Larry? Wow. Bomb threats on Election Day, and Zohran Mamdani blames Trump and the Trump administration and explains that these are just like the very real, tangible threats to our democracy that we see from Trump on a daily basis. Wow. Man, this is going to be a long 4 years. Zohran, real fast, just so you know, that's not anything that Trump or MAGA or Republicans, conservatives in America are involved with. Bomb threats. And I know, by the way, of course, you don't dabble in bomb threats or anything like that, or hang out with people who are engaged in things like bomb threats. No. You cut to the chase and you celebrate the guys connected to the actual bombing. Like the bombing of the World Trade Center, the unindicted co-conspirator, the guy who celebrated the idea of 10,000 jihadists marching down the streets of New York, to claim the city as their own. That's who you hang out with. Bomb threats, come on, that's Bush League. No. Just go for the actual bomb. Vote for me. I'm Zohran. Look at my smile. I make TikTok videos. Holy crap, New York. Seriously? The problem is that Democrats and radicals and communists like Zohran Mamdani are celebrated for this kind of thing. There will be political commentators saying, oh my gosh, he's so good at playing the political game. Look at that. Look at how he took this bomb threat and immediately turned it into an attack on Donald Trump and over half of the country who voted and supported him. Oh, he's so good. What a politically gifted individual. Yeah, you're right. You know what? If you're a mendacious, duplicitous, sociopathic liar, you can be really good at politics. There's lots of examples of it. We'll show you a few more as this program develops. But okay, let's let Kennedy chime in.
Unless we heard him incorrectly, what in the world is he talking about?
He is serving up a Kamala-sized word salad but he's using kale instead of romaine. It's just a slightly better finessed verbiage than we were given with her. This is emptiness. It means nothing. What he's doing is deflecting because he doesn't have an answer for this, because he is not prepared if, God forbid, something like 9/11 happens again. Just think about that. Were you in New York on 9/11? Do you remember what happened to this city? Do you remember what happened to this country? Do you remember who was mayor and what was needed from that office? Could this person really provide that? I mean, it scares the hell out of me. I hope everyone has a plan with their kids if, God forbid, something happens.
Got it.
Yeah, Kennedy, just one quick correction. Everything you heard from Mamdani, it didn't mean nothing. It meant something very specific and very real. This is who he is, and this is what he will do. If, God forbid, there is a terror attack or some kind of disaster or violent attack in Manhattan, he will immediately turn it into a political weapon to use against us. It's who he is. It's what he does. And by the way, that's what a lot of radicals after September 11th did. They said, well, what do you expect? What do you expect? United States has military bases in Saudi Arabia. I mean, we have to understand their rage. Of course they're angry at us. We support the state of Israel. So of course they went after us and attacked the World Trade Center. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we had those voices back then. But back then we had a Democrat Party who would actually, distance themselves. Now, not only do they permit it, they celebrate it, and they're about to elevate it to the highest office in New York City. It's terrifying. Meanwhile, other shenanigans in Manhattan, when you go to vote, if you've never voted in New York before, it's a show when you get your ballot. It's crazy. I've told you this before. They have all these different parties. That's how Andrew Cuomo was able to be on the ballot, because he got the nomination. He was trying to get the nomination of the Democrats. He got the nomination of some Freedom and Liberty Party or something. I don't know. Here's a guy on X who explained what happened to him when he went to get his ballot. No ID required, so that'll be fine. No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about non-citizens voting, New York, because there's hardly any non-citizens in that city. Hardly anyone born in a foreign land whose citizenship is somewhat dubious or in question. Don't worry. Just walk in, no need to show an ID, and cast your ballot. It's going to be fine. Number 2, Zoran is on the ballot twice in the top row. Yeah, that's right. You're allowed to be on the ballot multiple times if you win the backing of multiple parties. Eric Adams, who dropped out to avoid splitting the vote, is still on the ballot. So you're going to have people say, oh, I like the mayor. What's his name again? Eric Adams. Oh, yeah, let's vote for Eric Adams, when he's literally not even running anymore. And Andrew Cuomo, the only other apparently adult alternative to the communist, is in the bottom ballot in the right corner on the second row, which makes no sense if you're going alphabetically. First name or last name. Why isn't Zoran in the bottom row? Here's a look at what the ballot actually looks like. The mayor is the top 2 lines up there. Everything else on this ballot is secondary offices that are running. Here's a close-up of the box where it's mayor, and you'll see very first thing, top left, Democrat Zoran Kwame Mamdani. Then Curtis Sliwa. This is a Curtis Sliwa voter, by the way, that shared the ballot. Then there's the Conservative Party, which nominated somebody different than the Republican Party. For God's sake, New York, what the hell? Sorry. Irene Estrada. Then the Working Families Party has Zoran Kwame Mamdani, again, right on the top row. Then Curtis Sliwa again in the Protect Animals Party. All right, I'll stop yelling at you, New York, but Jesus, could you just please get your together? Then in the Safe and Affordable Party is Eric Adams. Then you go to the second row, not to the left, go down to the right, I guess. We're doing a wraparound here. That's when you finally see Andrew Cuomo in the Fight and Deliver Party. Kevin, I've got an idea. Next time there's a race in New York City, can we form a political party and just get on the ballot? Will you be the nominee of the You Can Call Me Larry party, Kevin?
Yeah, is that going to be the name?
Yeah, don't you think?
Let's do it.
All right.
It can't make it any worse. It's already so terrible.
I mean, the Protecting Animals Party in New York? Well, I mean, I guess if you're talking about rats, the Protect Animals Party. Chuck Schumer's a New Yorker. He is still yet to endorse Zohran Mamdani, and think it's not going to happen. I could be wrong. Anything can happen. Polls are still open. Here's Chuck Schumer trying to calm things down there in New York on election day because, you know, passions are running pretty high.
It's been clear. When we fight for democracy, when we protect democracy, we got to fight fire with fire. We're not going to stand idly by, as Maya said. We're not going to let them revert to Jim Crow. And if you don't think they want to revert to Jim Crow, just look what they did in the SAVE Act, which went back to Jim Crow for the whole nation. By so making it hard, they said you need ID, and they made it so hard to show ID that probably half the people in America couldn't vote. We wouldn't let it pass. Democrats, they needed our vote. They went to court. Many of us, Durbin, myself, and others were lead plaintiffs, and we beat them in court.
Why in the hell did they go to the trouble of renting microphones? Chuck, we're over here. You moron. You know, do you know why? By the way, I just so you have insight onto this, because I've gone to a lot of these made-for-television cameras, press appearances on Capitol Hill and in New York City. This one's in Capitol Hill, where they do this to get on camera and you know, get picked up on cable news networks and shows like this. Do you know why he turned around and started talking to everybody behind him? Because they're the only people who are actually there. You're right where the camera is, right? And they stand there at the microphone and they make these big announcements. It's like, we got to fight fire with fire, said Chuck Schumer. And you need to know something, that they act like there's this big crowd behind the camera where you're sitting right now, where the camera is. There's no one. It's just grass. They set it up. Nobody shows up, but they got people behind them for the picture, for the TV shot. And so Schumer is such a dolt that he starts feeling awkward, the fact that there's nobody there. So he turns around and starts talking to the only people who are there. But then he goes off microphone. These are your leaders. We are led by imbeciles.
But it shows why we need legislation. Because these guys are undoing everything in every way they can. They don't want poor people to vote. They don't want people of color to vote. They don't want Democrats to vote. They don't believe in democracy. We do.
There you go. Yeah, that's tamping things down. Remember after Charlie Kirk got a bullet in the throat and bled out in front of all of our eyes, we decried this outrageous political rhetoric that we're hearing on both sides, and both sides are guilty of it. And we all just have to take a deep breath, and we need to stop with the volatile recriminations, and the political rhetoric just needs to downshift. Yeah, I remember that. I remember it vividly. And so what does Chuck Schumer do on election day?
It's been clear. When we fight for democracy, when we protect democracy, we got to fight fire with fire.
There you go. Fight fire with fire. This is who they are. That when you're on the political left, I think it's impossible for you to actually motivate voters and make your political point in a public forum without evoking some kind of violent rhetoric. And it's not just in America. Look at Europe. Look at England. Look at Latin America, for God's sake, and third world nations. Can we say third world nations still? Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I meant to be politically correct. I mean shithole countries. That's what I meant. Yes, and they're constantly evoking rhetoric. Chuck Schumer in another country would also have an AK-47 that he fired up into the air and screamed at the end of his press conference. That might attract people, by the way, Chuck. They had a forum of New York City voters on Fox News yesterday, and, well, here's what the New York liberals are thinking.
I think what's really important and standing out for me right now is if we can take ourselves like a high level, like not say immigration, not say economy, not say all the hot talking points, and just ask ourselves, how are we treating our neighbors? Like, how are we treating one another? And is it okay that yesterday, on Saturday, 42 million of our neighbors no longer can feed themselves? Is it okay that our neighbors are getting taken off the streets by ICE? Is it okay that gender-affirming care is being taken from young people who really need it to survive? Is it okay that the Supreme Court has now justified racial profiling? That's not how I want to treat my neighbor.
There you go. It's fantastic. And by the way, she'll be the first person to complain that the streets of New York are dangerous. and that a nice middle-aged suburban mom just trying to walk down the street with her kids, getting to work, has to dodge trash and drug addicts and crime and violence. That's how you get that, ma'am. That's how you get that. I do want Democrats to continue, lamenting at the fact that 42 million people are about to lose their SNAP benefits and therefore can't afford food. It is a human tragedy. But I think when voters hear that, it doesn't have the effect that you think. They don't think, oh my God, that's terrible. My gosh, we've got to fund these programs quickly before. They do think that, but they also think in the back of their mind, or maybe even the front of their mind, what the hell is going on here in this country that so many people are dependent on the government to put food on the table? This system is broken. It was never designed to be this big and this all-encompassing and this intrusive. It's not a success that 42 million people are on these programs. That's an utter failure of the people who have been running things. And by the way, close to 70% of those 40 million are non-citizens of the United States. They come here and they get your food that you're paying for with your tax dollars. And the same panel, though, as this woman was decrying the fact that people in the country illegally are actually being deported and our laws are being enforced, it took this guy to keep it real.
The difference between being kind, and to me, my faith is, one thing is being nice to people from different lands, but they also have to be respectful of our laws. And everybody wants to come to the United States because we have a great economy, have a lot of opportunity, but there's a process to do that. My family has been here since at least the 1700s. There's no one that's gave us a free $1,400 debit card. No one gave us a free apartment. No one gave us anything free. We had to work for it. So there is a process. And if we respect all people, that means that the people that come here need to respect our laws. And that's all that we're saying. We allowed 20 million immigrants in here legally since 2000. How much is too much, and how much are we going to put the burden on the taxpayers? Because the money has to come from somewhere. Yeah. It's just common sense.
That is, in fact, common sense. And that's how most Americans think. And it happens to be how Republicans think. Democrats and liberals will only get you to break out of that common sense and that logic cloud when they prey on your vulnerabilities, your emotions, and your guilt, and try to publicly shame you into changing what is common sense in your own brain. Oh, I know that's right. I know that's right. But you're going to call me names and you're going to think that I'm wrong. And I just feel bad and I'm privileged anyway. So fine. Just do whatever you want. And then we get exactly where we are right now. It looks like it's going to be a big day for Zoran Mamdani. So let's let him have the final word here. He took his grinning, smug little fakeness to MSNBC, and he was actually asked a challenging question. One that he's probably not prepared to answer, but every single person who calls them a donkey Democrat needs to answer it. And that is, so you're the mayor of New York. AOC is the top fundraiser and political activist in the House of Representatives. Bernie Sanders, ditto in the Senate. That's the center of gravity for this party right now. So tell me something. You're all Democrat socialists. You all identify as Democrat socialists. You call yourselves Democrat socialists, but then you run in the Democrat Party when you want to win an election, because really we only have two major established parties in this country. So you zip up your little donkey suit and cover up your commie suit. But answer one question for us, would you, Grinny boy? What's the difference between a Democrat and a Democrat socialist?
How do you respond to that when somebody comes up to you and says, I can't vote for you because you're a communist?
I say there are reasons you might not want to vote for me, but let's be honest about my politics. I'm a democratic socialist no matter how many times President Trump calls me otherwise.
Yeah, explain the difference. What is the difference between a Democrat, a democratic socialist, and a communist?
Well, I'm a democratic socialist who's also a Democrat.
Right.
And when I say I'm a democratic socialist, I explain it in the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said that call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
Right.
And what I actually find is that when you're speaking to New Yorkers, they ask you less how you describe your politics and more whether there's room for them in that politics. Right. And New Yorkers are asking me, does your politics have room for my struggle to afford my rent, my childcare, my groceries? And frankly, President Trump ran an entire campaign focusing on the cost of living, focusing on the promise of cheaper groceries. And his inability to do so is now making him increasingly desperate to try and stop the campaign that will actually deliver on the same diagnosis that he shared.
Yeah.
Did you notice he didn't answer the question? He doesn't want to. He's terrified to, because if you knew the truth, you might not support him anymore. When everyone comments tonight and tomorrow in the intervening weeks as they start to have momdanisms, can we call them, or maybe momasms, Zoranisms, as they lose themselves over this guy. And all the people in the corporate legacy media who have been somewhat reluctant, they all buy in. And they're all falling in love with him. They're all going to say this. Oh, he's so good. Did you see how smooth that was? When they say a politician is really smooth and so good at responding to tough questions, what it means is they're really good bullshitters. That's what they're telling you. My God, he can bullshit with the best of them. Yeah, it's true. Really good at it. It doesn't change the fact that it's a big steaming pile of, well, I won't beep in your ear again, but that's what it is. He's so good at evading our questions. That's what the press will say. Me, I'm an observer of the press and politicians, and I follow up and say, maybe you should ask your questions a little better, or maybe you shouldn't let him get away with it. Maybe he's good at it because you let him do it. It's almost like there's a double standard here on how the media treats somebody on the left, this darling, and someone who's not. But I do want to break this down real fast so you can see the slippery little trick that he played here.
How do you respond to that when somebody comes up to you and says, I can't vote for you because you're a communist?
I say there are reasons you might not want to vote for me, but let's be honest about my politics. I'm a democratic socialist, no matter how many times President Trump calls me otherwise.
I just want you to know that he's on the record saying that ultimately their plan is to seize the means of productions. The video is out there. You can see it. I think it has a copyright hold on it. That's why I'm not going to show it to you, but go ahead and find it. It's on social media. Seizing the means of productions is straight out of Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, not his Democrat Socialist Manifesto, his Communist Manifesto. Also, his plans to provide free buses to everyone in New York. I love that the press lets him get away with that. Oh, they're free, are they? So there's no cost? Really? So the bus drivers aren't going to get paid? There's no maintenance? There's no fuel cost? Oh, no, it's going to be real expensive. Oh, it's expensive. So it's not free. It's expensive. It's just that the passengers aren't going to pay for it. Stop calling it free then. That is communism. Putting in your own grocery stores, owned by the government, not by free market, private ownership. That's communism. You want the government to be in charge of distributing food to you? That's his plan. He says it's only one per borough in New York, but if he had the opportunity, would every grocery store in New York be owned by the government? Maybe he should be asked that question. What do you call it if the answer to that question is yes? It's communism. So then the question is, well, what's the difference? What makes you a Democrat socialist? Let's wait for the answer. I'm looking for it.
Explain the difference. What is the difference between a Democrat, a democratic socialist, and a communist?
Well, I'm a democratic socialist who's also a Democrat.
Right.
And when I say I'm a democratic socialist, I explain it in the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said that call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
Better distribution of wealth. Let me ask you a question here in America. How is wealth distributed in America? Can you answer that? I would love to. In fact, Joe Scarborough says, whoa, hold on right there. When you say distribution of wealth, how is wealth currently distributed in America, and how do you think it should be distributed in America? Here's how wealth is distributed in America. When a business, an entrepreneur, a corporation, when they have money, capital, investments from banks, or maybe money that they've earned on their own with their products or services, they hire people to help them provide more products and more services to the free market where there is a customer base for it. And when they hire people, part of the wealth of that individual or that company is distributed via a salary and pay to those individuals. Or let's say they need to buy products and services from other individuals to help them create their product that they're going to sell on their market. Well, if they buy material goods from another company, that's distributing some of their wealth to another company who then receives that wealth, and then they distribute it to their employees. And it's worked pretty well in this country. You know, you always hear Bernie Sanders and AOC and this guy here say, we're the wealthiest country on the planet, and yet we don't do this. We're the wealthiest country on the planet, and we don't provide free healthcare. We're the wealthiest country on the planet, and we don't have better schools. We're the wealthiest country on the planet, and yet people are starving. We're the wealthiest country on the planet, and people are living in the streets. How did we get so wealthy? They're never asked that question. Well, greed. Okay, but it got us wealthy. Well, capitalism and horrible capitalism, corporate greed and corporate capitalism. No, here's how we got wealthy. How did we get to be the wealthiest country? You may dispute and argue what we do with that wealth, okay? But every single one of their solutions undermines all of the things that made us so wealthy. Every single one of them. They just take for granted that we're a wealthy country, and then they put policies in place that would destroy every single institution that's still left standing in this country that got us so wealthy. And no one ever challenges them on that. Ever. What's your plan to redistribute wealth in this country? And by the way, while you're at it, Martin Luther King was a Republican hero. Please take his name out of your mouth. Their plan to redistribute wealth in this country is very different than the model that I just gave you. Their plan is to confiscate it, or as much as they can. And then he gets to decide where the money goes. Not you, not the free market, not customer demand or consumer demand. No, he and all of his brilliant friends with all their knowledge and all their experience. I mean, when has that ever gone wrong? Except for Stalin's Soviet Union and Mao's China and Castro's Cuba and Chavez's Venezuela, and I can go on and on. They all have the same great idea. And by the way, they all called themselves democratic socialists. We're just trying to distribute wealth properly. I wish I had a more uplifting, positive election day preview for you, but this is where we are. This is where the Democrat Socialist Party in America has led us. And I don't mean the fringe little Democrat Socialists of America, DSA. No, I mean Jefferson and Madison's formerly Democratic Republican Party, then changed to the Democratic Party. And now they basically surrendered to the Democrat Socialist Party. That's who they are. And that's why we are where we are. And I need some water. Excuse me. If you buy gold, you will get free silver. That sounds like a good plan. Oh, wait. Wrong copy, Kevin. Isn't it?
Yeah, we do have new copy today.
Hang on. Stand by. I got this. I would rather do this properly. All right. Nope, that's not it. Where is it? All right, I better do that. I'm going to do this copy until you find me the other one. All right? Buy gold and get free silver. That's right. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold this month in advance of Veterans Day, they're going to send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Gold is up over 40% since the beginning of the year, and Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And they're going to send you free silver, honoring our veterans. If you're current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer. They're waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, tens of thousands of happy customers, many of which are my listeners. I encourage you to find out how you can diversify your savings into gold. Text my name, Larry, to the number 989898. Get a free info kit and claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchases before the end of the month. Again, text my name, Larry, to 989898. Do that today. Well, the View is just a mess these days, and as if the conversation weren't as awkward and unreasonable and impossible to get through. Add to the mix the fact that the corporate overlords of the show are very well aware that the volatile loose cannons that they put on that table could open up their yappers and walk them right into a Donald Trump lawsuit at any given moment. Which brings us to yesterday's fun little escapade. Watch this.
The Trump family has made about $1.8 billion profited off of this government. And he said that Joe Biden didn't know who he was pardoning using an auto pen. How come you don't know who this guy is?
Because he used an auto pen. Let me meetings with the judge. The meetings that they're supposed to go to when they're listening to what the hell, what?
I love when Sonny passes notes.
We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part. It was a joke.
Yeah. We don't know if Trump used an auto pen.
Come on.
But we do know that he didn't know who that crypto guy was.
Well, I'm sorry. You know, the hardest thing about this job now is no one understands nuance. You know when you hear a joke, when somebody's fooling around, when they're not saying something specific, especially on this show. I'm very specific when I'm pointing stuff out. When I'm making jokes, you know when I'm making jokes. This is ridiculous. Anywho, the other thing that really upsets me about.
She's pissed. This is so beautiful and so golden, and I want to break it down because every moment of this is amazing. By the way, Whoopi, just to point out, you're an EGOT, for God's sake. I saw Whoopi Goldberg when she won her Tony Award with her one-woman show on Broadway in 1985. I was still a kid, but I saw that show. She's been around forever, and she's done stand-up, and she's tells jokes, whatever. But if I may, because you've reached a point in your career, and you're now doing this sort of quasi-news show. Actually, it is a news show. It's under the umbrella of ABC News. So let me just give you a pointer of someone, yes, many years younger than you and in the game that you're in right now. Maybe, just maybe, if people don't recognize that you're joking, maybe it's because your jokes suck. Huh? Oh, and another thing, if your joke is a blatant lie, not only is it not funny because all humor is actually grounded in truth, but you can still be guilty of defamation. The, hey, I was just joking defense doesn't work. Not when you're on a news show and you're engaging in a news debate. And by the way, let's watch the moment again when she says that Trump pardoned a guy using the auto pen. You tell me, listen to the audience reaction. Listen to the uproarious laughter, and you tell me if you think it was a joke.
The Trump family has made about $1.8 billion profited off of this government. And he said that Joe Biden didn't know who he was pardoning using an auto pen. How come you don't know who this guy is?
Because he used an auto pen.
No one laughed. Maybe they didn't know it was a joke because no one laughed and because it wasn't funny. But now she's angry at the producer and she's angry at her audience. And she says that that's the least favorite part of her job. I would think that the least favorite part of the job is that you're always having to sit next to either Joy Behar or Anna Navarro. That would do it for me. But pick your poison, I suppose. Also, by the way, while we're talking about correcting people on the record, how did this one slip by?
Family has made about $1.8 billion profited off of this government.
Really? The Trump family has profited $1.8 billion off of the United States government? I'd love to see some backup of that one, too. And where was their righteous indignation over the Biden family riches off of the U.S. government? I don't think we'll ever see that. That said, the auto pen controversy over pardons, and this all stems from Trump's 60 Minutes interview where Norah O'Donnell said, who is this person? Some person whose name was relatively unpronounceable. I think it was a Chinese name. And Trump up immediately said, I don't know. And Norah O'Donnell said, really? Because you pardoned him? Please. And that's the controversy, right? So then they carried the conversation over to CNN. And yes, the question of Joe Biden's auto pen use for pardons, which I would think would be a bigger problem, came up in the conversation. And watch how Abby Phillips handled this.
President Trump knew that he pardoned someone. I'm sure at the time he knew what it
know
was,
who he pardoned?
but I'm sure at the time that he did. Our question is,
he doesn't know
did
anything
Joe
about
Biden
it.
even know he was pardoning anyone? And because the paper trail so lax, like there's not the proof there that
But
it
hold
needs
on.
to be
I
that
don't
needs to be
understand.
done.
How do we jump to the conclusion that Joe Biden didn't know who he pardoned?
Because
when
Jake
Donald
Tapper
Trump
wrote a book about how out of
hold on.
it that he was.
Okay, again, I'm going to ask, how do we jump to the conclusion that Joe Biden did not know who he pardoned, any of the people he pardoned, when Trump is literally on camera saying directly to a reporter, I don't know anything about
Well, I
this.
think I answered that question, but here's one piece that we do need.
Actually, she sort of answered the question, but I'll give you a better answer. Although I do like the fact that she said, well, because your colleague, Jake Tapper, wrote a book about how he was out of it. And so it's a good conclusion to reach. But I've got a better follow-up question for Abby Phillips, who's saying, well, how did we reach that conclusion when here's Trump admitting on camera that he doesn't know who he's pardoned? Well, it's funny, Abby. It's because you and all of your colleagues here at CNN and your colleagues at ABC and CBS and NBC and MSNBC and at the Washington Post and the New York Times, you never bothered to ask Joe Biden the question. Has anyone asked Joe Biden, hey, do you know who blankety blank name is? And then see what his reaction is? You think he's going to say, oh, yeah, I pardoned him. I pardoned him on the 13th day of November. It was 7:30 in the morning. I remember it well because I had a grapefruit juice that morning, not an orange juice. And give me a break. But Abby Phillips, just to be factual here, we don't know for sure whether Joe Biden knows or doesn't know who he pardoned. Really?
To really think
But
about.
I don't understand.
The
What evidence do
process
we-
is so
hold on.
lax in these
What
pardons.
do we-
There's a lot of money, and President Biden's pardoned 4,200 people. And an average president does 300-400 per in his tenure. Who were all these people? This is big business. The dirty secret is pardons are big business in Washington.
Okay, yeah.
They
I actually
absolutely
agree.
are.
I actually agree with you.
And
on
we
that.
need to do a better job of
But
knowing
let's not
who and why.
forget that
Okay.
President Trump knew.
By the way, one other thing here quickly, because we've got a little bit more from this episode of the Abby Phillips show. But did you notice what happened to their table? Is this how it's going to be all the time now? They got the little Spaceship Enterprise shuttle bridge there. Instead of, they used to have a little table, remember? And they were all sitting across from each other. And that's actually a way to engage in a back and forth conversation. And now everybody's sitting on this little sort of quasi horseshoe. Is that what we're going to do now for this show? When did they change it? Or is this their set in New York? I thought the old set was in New York, or was that? I'm not sure. I'm truly asking. But if this is, I liked it better at the table. I think it was better. But, it's a pretty low-rated show. So maybe this keeps Scott Jennings from being in the shot as much as he was, and that's going to help Abby Phillips' ego. I'm not sure. But speaking of Scott Jennings, the conversation then turned to SNAP benefits on the show. And Congresswoman Moskowitz was there and lied. And Scott Jennings was there to fact check.
And look, I voted against the CR because the CR wasn't going to take care of people's health insurance. Health care was going to go up. I didn't vote for that CR. Scott might remember Republicans didn't vote for the CR previously, the same CR in different years. In fact, Republicans removed a Speaker of the House. We forget about that because he put a CR on the floor. So,
but you did vote against the SNAP benefits, then you admit.
I did not vote against the SNAP.
If you had voted for the CR,
No,
would
no.
we have SNAP right now?
Scott,
We would.
what I voted for was a CR that was going to see people in Florida have their health insurance go up almost 100%.
No,
I got
these are
25
separate issues.
No, I got 25,000 people in my district that are going to lose their health insurance because this CR didn't
And how many do you have
it.
going to lose their SNAP?
Okay. Well, first of all, let's talk about SNAP for a second. Why did the Republicans send $40 billion to Argentina? Where is that money, Scott? Why
It's a
didn't that
credit
go to
swap.
Americans?
You know
Why?
you're
That's
being
America
dishonest.
first.
It's a credit
that's
swap.
America.
We're gonna turn a profit on
That's
that.
America first. We're sending money to Argentina rather than
not.
taking
It's a
care
credit
of
swap.
people's SNAP benefits. I would have loved to have been at Mar-a-Lago while the girls were in the martini glasses when they were trying to figure out what to do with the judge's order. Half the room was probably like, should we pay it? Should we not pay it? And then someone was like, oh, I have a great idea. Let the subjects only get half their rations. I mean, they're only going to give half the SNAP benefits to these people.
How many
Look
have
at
the
polling,
Democrats
Scott.
voted to give?
Scott, look at the
Zero.
polling.
Democrats have repeatedly voted to give 0 of SNAP benefits. I'm sorry, this is not. This whole thing could have been averted if Democrats had done what they did in March, which is vote for Joe Biden's budget levels. They have refused to do it. A couple of Democrats in the Senate, like John Fetterman, have shown some courage and backbone. But the bottom line is this party is enthralled to the radical left. That's why they've changed their position from March until now. And that's why people are not getting their SNAP benefits. It's why federal law enforcement isn't being paid. It's why Trump's having to scramble to pay the military. This is a Democratic shutdown because of political fear.
That's right. And
look,
as we mentioned, first of all, every viewer of this program knows every single thing that Scott Jennings said there is a fact, 100% true. I defy anyone to suggest otherwise. They can't. Also, as we said yesterday, it looks like they were just waiting for Election Day today. As soon as Election Day is over, they're going to figure out a way with their tail between the legs to pretend to declare victory because all they cared about was winning the election. And then they're going to go ahead and reopen the government, probably by Monday. They don't care. They don't care. Meanwhile, the media, they do their best to try to do the sob stories to make you feel sorry for the fact that the SNAP benefits are being shut down and defunded by Democrats. Somehow that's Republicans' fault. Somehow that's Donald Trump's fault, right? So then they run these packages on people who are going to have trouble feeding their families. And of course, we're normal. We have a heart. We're Christian. We're faith-based individuals. Judeo-Christian values and ethics inform us, and we want to help our fellow man. We want to love and care for people who are less fortunate and need some help. So immediately our impulse is going to be, oh my gosh, that's terrible. What can I do? Right? They know that about you, and so that's why they want to prey on your vulnerabilities and your compassion. Now, you tell me how compassionate you feel after watching this news package that was set up to make you feel guilty that people are going without their food stamps. Watch. Maybe you'll see what I saw.
The first thing I did was grab my phone and call, and when I heard $0, my chest went into my throat.
Maggie Aragon has been a SNAP recipient for more than 3 decades. Even with these benefits, she says she also relies on food banks to get enough food.
I have depended on those benefits since the 1990s, and it's detrimental to my life if I don't get them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you caught it. Since the 90s. 3 decades. She's been dependent on federal aid for the basic food necessities. And I'd love to know, how many kids do you have? Who has a job? Are you married? Is there a man in the house? What have you done to try to get your life back in place so that you can afford your own food, so your neighbors don't have to pay for the food on your table? And by the way, you're in New Mexico. What party has dominated New Mexico politics for all of those decades? You know the answers to all of those questions, don't you? The more they shine a light on SNAP benefits and food stamps and this entire apparatus, the more you recognize that the programs that were first introduced to you to be a supplemental program to help people who are down on their luck so they don't starve has become a budget line item that they count on, rely on, and yes, exploit. Because if they're never going to take it away from you, then you're always going to keep getting it. And then Will Cain picked up one other part of the SNAP story that I'm glad we're starting to learn about. Democrats are going to regret deciding to hold SNAP hostage and making SNAP the litmus test. We've already told you that there's way too many people on it, 40 million plus. That's not a success. That's a failure of the Democrats who run these programs. And close to 60% of those people are non-citizens. But wait, there's more for you to be pissed off about.
Like most government programs, SNAP is susceptible to abuse, and there are several types of abuse that we've become familiar with. One is that a cashier runs a $100 EBT card transaction for food, but gives the customers $50 in cash instead of groceries. Or a recipient sells the balance to another person of their EBT card. You can also falsify your application by claiming fewer household members or less income. You can use fake pay stubs or falsify your address to meet eligibility requirements. And then there's the skimmers. Skimmers are placed on grocery checkout terminals, and it copies EBT data to be later used in making duplicate cards. So with that in mind, it's fair to ask, is SNAP serving its purpose? Are we doing enough to protect the program for the Americans who truly need it? There's an interesting trend on social media right now. It's a trend where black men are suggesting the expiration of SNAP benefits might actually be a blessing in disguise.
This program is keeping a lot of people unmarried, uneducated, don't want to, do anything that will hinder their opportunity, their chance to lose their benefits.
Only in America do we have people that have $1,200 iPhones checking to see if their SNAP benefits hit.
Anyone who's on welfare, not for a disability, but because they can't provide for themselves, should not have the ability to vote in our society.
I don't have kids, but there's no way that I have kids and I'm waiting on somebody else to feed them.
All very powerful messages, and powerful messages from people who, based on their racial identity and ethnic group, would for decades be taken for granted by the Democrat Party. Oh yeah, they'll vote Democrat, doesn't matter. And now look what's turned, look what's changed. And the more the Democrats continue to prey on your fears and your guilt and your Christian conscience on the SNAP issue, well, the more people they're going to lose, because ultimately we Americans, we loathe the idea of being dependent on anyone, let alone the federal government, for something as basic as food on our table. It's abhorrent to us to do that. And we loathe the people who don't loathe it. And that's a societal change that we might be on the verge of fixing right now, thanks to the Democrats. I want to be blunt. Gold is up about 40% this year. You've heard me tell you, it's not speculation, it's reality. If a portion of your savings isn't diversified into gold, you may be missing the boat. You might want to look at that. Inflation's still too high. Dollar is weak. Government debt is increasing. It's why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late for you to buy gold from Birch Gold Group. Get in the door now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, and you don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. Gold has historically been used as a safe haven for millennia. What else can say that? Anything? Text Larry to 989898 right now. Claim your free info kit on gold. That's Larry, 989898. Protect your future with Birch Gold today. It was widely reported yesterday that former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi will not seek re-election in 2028. This is huge. Nancy Pelosi began her political career back in the 60s when she was kind of hot. Now she's still hot, I guess, for a woman her age. Nancy Pelosi rose to the level of Speaker of the House as the first woman speaker. And, well, to be fair, over the last couple of years, she may have lost a step. She lost her firm grip with her talons on the handle of that gavel for Speaker of the House, and she handed it not to her trusted second in command all those years, Steny Hoyer. No, he got discarded and thrown into the ash bin of history. Instead, Hakeem Jeffries got the gavel. Yeah, that's right. She picked Hakeem Jeffries to be her successor. I think she may have done that just so Democrats could say, wow, we had no idea how good we had it when we had Nancy Pelosi. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, she has not confirmed this rumor. It's been speculated. And by the way, she has already filed for re-election in 2028, so it would be a reversal. As of now, officially, Nancy Pelosi is still running, but there's enough buzz. There are enough rumors. There are enough people whispering behind the scenes of this unconfirmed rumor that we're taking it pretty seriously. Either that or the Democrats hate her so much that they're creating this entire narrative to just push her out. You know, kind of the way Nancy Pelosi did it to Joe Biden. Yeah, just like that. Anyway, on her way out the door, Nancy Pelosi gave an interview to the new Alex Michelson show on CNN and said something rather extraordinary.
It's just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah. I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the president of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives. He's chilled the press. He's chilled the press. He's scared people who are in our country legally.
I know you've said the focus is on Prop 50. I know you've said you won't talk about your future until after Prop 50, but there is speculation about what you're going to do next. Can you talk to us just about what the thought process is? How do you weigh the personal and the political?
Well, first of all, when people start, as in the press, speculating, is she going to run, is she not going to run, other people file or say they're going to run, you know what that does? That gives me so much support. People calling me saying, I'm for you, I'm for you, I'm for you, representing organizations, representing communities that some of these people are leaders in, but calling and saying, if you go, I'm with you. So it's a lovely thing to see the friendship. I have no doubt that if I decided to run, I would win. That isn't even a question. It isn't arrogant, it's confident. I know my district, I live here, I am with them much of the time. They've given me the latitude when I was speaker and leader to be around the country and around the world, and I'm grateful to them for that. But I'd always keep the home fires burning, as I have always done. So for me, it's just a question of one thing, winning the House for the Democrats. And that's what we're doing with Proposition 50. It's the first step. And then we go from there to winning. And my only reason I'm in Congress this term is to win the House for the Democrats, to protect us from the poison of the Trump administration.
Okay, a couple of things here. First of all, once again, I want to point out I'm so happy that everyone's toning down the rhetoric here because the Trump administration is poison. This was sad and pathetic. You know, the question, and I like Alex Michelson. I'm excited for his new show here. I followed his career in Los Angeles on KTLA. I hope he starts getting some more Republicans on the show with him and conservatives. He needs to reach out. It's going to be hard because of the CNN brand. That said, the question from Alex was, how do you weigh the personal and the professional when deciding whether you're going to run for another term? This woman is in her mid-80s. She is a great grandmother. She has been in politics and elected office pretty much her entire adult life. Her father was the mayor of Baltimore before she moved to California and then ran for the House of Representatives. There's pictures of her with John F. Kennedy, for God's sake. And did you notice in the answer, how do you weigh the personal and the private and the public and the political when you're making this decision? The entire answer was politics. The entire answer was party politics. Not one mention of her husband. What about her beloved husband that she loved so much that she was so worried about when he had that hammer attack? No mention of her children, no mention of her grandchildren, no mention of her great-grandchildren, no mention of going and gardening or baking or watching, you know, some movie or something. None of that. That's sad. That's pathetic. The entire answer was about party politics. We gotta win. I'm not even gonna think about this until we win. The reason this has come up is because a local politician in California has said that he's going to primary Nancy Pelosi. More on him in a minute, because I know a lot of you have very strong feelings about Nancy Pelosi. But let me just tell you, the devil you know sometimes is way better than the literal demon you're about to meet. We'll get to him in a second. But real fast, the question here was, what do you think of Donald Trump?
It's just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face?
But anyway, I like that. A vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. Worse than terrorism, worse than rape, worse than murder. worse than terrorists or rapists or murderers. Donald Trump is the most vile creature, worst thing on the planet Earth. You know, when we get murdered for our political beliefs, why do they act surprised after saying things like this? Now, it may come as a shock to you that Nancy Pelosi is considering resigning after all these many decades, half century of public service. Because let's face it, recently she's really come into her own. She's been showing the energy that makes her look like Nancy Pelosi in her spry early 70s.
Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American.
Wow. Yeah, see? That go, Nan, go. She's in her prime there. She seems totally together. By the way, I just want to point out here that before she pivoted and screamed, "Shut up!" to the reporter. By the way, didn't she say in the last answer that one of the reasons why Donald Trump is so vile is that he's put a chill on the press? Yeah, Donald Trump has put a chill on the press, but here she is turning to a reporter and saying, "Shut up!" They get away with everything, these Democrats. But I want you to see real fast before she gets asked, do you see that it took two people, one on each side holding her hand, to get her to walk down the sidewalk to get to her chauffeured limousine? Yeah, she's doing great. And by the way, here she was just a couple of months ago on Tapper.
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I
and
wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that have been made over time. I'm not into it, my husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting.
Right, so first, she argued with Jake Tapper for even asking the question. How dare you? I came out here to talk about Medicare. You're supposed to play by my rules. I'm a Democrat, remember? And then seemed flat-footed there in actually getting a legitimate question from somebody other than, someone from town hall media, yelling a question at her that she can pretend to ignore about the accusations of insider trading. Jake Tapper, of course, has to third person it. He doesn't want to take ownership of the question. I'm not asking you this, Speaker Pelosi, but other people are suggesting that you're guilty of insider trading. Maybe the fact that the media started challenging her on things like this, even obliquely and ham-handedly, might be one of the signals that Nancy Pelosi got that it was time to go. I'll tell you this, recently she's been acting like someone who doesn't care anymore, who doesn't try or even pretend to care about people in this country who don't have San Francisco values. She used to act that way. Oh, the Democrats, we're a national party and we represent all Americans, blue collar people from the middle of the country. We love flyover country. Yeah. Take a look at this at the Harvard Kennedy School of Politics. Feel the love, middle of the country. Feel the love, Christian conservatives.
You're people of faith. You go to church on Sunday and pray in church on Sunday and pray on people the rest of the week. What is this? What?
She's the only one who laughed at that lame joke. You go to church and pray on Sunday and then pray on people the rest of the week. Maybe if you're a leader of the party that supports pedophilia and transing children and 8-year-old drag queen shows and drag queen nursing hour at a kindergarten class, maybe you shouldn't use terms like preying on people. It hits a little close to home. But that's your Nancy Pelosi. Oh, and by the way, you might not know this, but Nancy Pelosi not only was the daughter of the former mayor of Baltimore, but when she moved to California, she sort of created her own political super party. her brother, oh no, excuse me, her husband's brother was married to a woman related to this guy. That's right. It's the Pelosi Newsom family dynasty. He grew up with Nancy Pelosi hovering around the house all the time, learned everything he could from her, especially how to demonize your political opponents and lie. He lies so well, he could be Zoran Mamdani.
Nothing I dislike more than the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break.
Did you legitimately believe that he was capable of serving as president until January of 2029?
Yeah, I think my focus was frankly situational. It was making sure Donald Trump didn't get back into office to experience everything that we're experiencing today. And
okay, so in the same interview, he said nothing disgusts him more than a politician who will sit there and lie to you. And then he immediately either admitted that he lied before or is lying right now. I mean, in the same interview. Oh, and good on Kristen Welker for calling him on it. I'm sorry, sir. I thought you said you hated liars. So you're saying now that you didn't really think Joe Biden could be president through 2029, but you said it just because you were trying to stop Donald Trump. That's a lie, isn't it? Oh, no. My perspective was situational. You lied. Could we also just take a gander at this buffoon here without actually hearing his lies? Just watch this guy. What is that? Does he practice this in front of the bathroom mirror or with his wife? Hey, honey, I got a new gesture here. What do you think? What if I tilt my head like this and then pout a little bit and then roll my eyes really dramatically? Do you think the kids will like it? What do you think? What an odious person. Oh, speaking of his wife, well, she's a piece of work. They held a rally for today's vote in California, Prop 50, where they basically disenfranchise millions and millions and millions of Republicans in the state that has the highest population of Republicans, taking their representation away from them. That's Gavin Newsom for you, because democracy is under threat. So we have to kill democracy to protect democracy. Here she was at the press conference. By the way, check out this guy right behind her. He's looking at her like he looks at Fang Fang on a hot night. That's Eric Swalwell there against the back wall. And I think he's got a little bit of a crush. And by the way, Eric, you should make the ask. I think Gavin will probably be into it.
And I will tell you right now, I will not raise my children to think Donald Trump is an acceptable American leader. Nor that he is what the leader of our great country should behave like. Yes. I won't raise them to think his terror enables his power and that his greed equals success. He is the exact opposite of what real strength looks like. So in our house, Gavin and I will continue to teach our kids what strength really looks like. If you see someone sitting alone at a table, you invite them to your table. If you see someone being bullied, you speak up and ask an adult for help. And you always, always tell the truth. Maybe if Donald Trump's parents had taught him any of these lessons, we wouldn't be in this mess. On the contrary, Trump is enriching his immediate family and cronies. He is stripping away our rights and our democracy. When he knows he's going to lose, he cheats. When the game isn't rigged for him, he rigs it himself. Sometimes no is a full sentence. Trust me. That's right. But Donald Trump's never accepted no for an answer. He's a con artist, a predator, a malignant narcissist, in chief, and the worst president in our nation's history.
I'm getting some Gwen Waltz vibes here. But boy, oh boy, are they setting things up. This was a rally for the Democrat Party in California on the eve of the Prop 50 vote today. And with all the Democrats from that state, I mean, let's face it, the Democrat Party in America is run by California and New York, little bit of Chicago, but and so with all the Democrats in California that they could have speaking at this event, they bring out the unelected partner of Governor Gavin Newsom. Gee, I wonder why. And as usual, that diatribe against Donald Trump, as usual, every single thing they accuse you of, they are guilty of times 10. But that's the state of play in California right now when it comes to politics, except for one thing. I mentioned that Nancy Pelosi might be stepping down because it has been reported that she will be primaried this time around by a state senator in California. His name is Scott Wiener. It's this guy. He's a San Francisco politician. That's how he dresses just on a normal day in town. Or it might be the Pride Parade. I'm not sure. I mean, let's face it, every day in San Francisco is Pride Day. Scott Wiener is an LGBTQ plus IA, et cetera, activist in state senators' clothing or lack thereof. He's made it his life's work in Sacramento to promote every single demented, evil, twisted policy to help his core constituency, including championing a bill that would decriminalize somebody who purposefully, knowingly, deliberately infected another person with AIDS. I'm not joking. In the state of California, it was illegal. It was a crime to knowingly infect somebody with the HIV virus. Scott Wiener made it his life's goal to remove that penalty from the books. He said it was discriminatory. He has also never he's never championed a law in the state of California that doesn't encourage the transing of children and the introduction of deviant sexual themes on minors in the state of California, another thing that he wishes to decriminalize. This is the favorite right now to replace Nancy Pelosi should she not run. Even if she does run, he could win the primary. Like I said, the devil you know is sometimes better than the evil demon you're about to get to know. That's Scott Wiener. We'll keep an eye on him as much as it disgusts us. This morning, we got some big news, the passing of former Vice President Dick Cheney in the greater Washington area. Here's how Senator Ted Cruz reacted in real time.
Senator Ted Cruz joins us now. Senator, I know you worked on that campaign. You watched that bond come together with the governor of Texas and the former Secretary of Defense. What did you see?
Well, Dick Cheney was an extraordinary public servant. You're right. President George W. Bush relied on Dick Cheney for virtually everything. He trusted him deeply. And I got to say, Dick Cheney was someone who, at 34 years old, he was chief of staff to President Gerald Ford. He became Secretary of Defense under President Bush 41, and then, of course, Vice President under Bush 43. He was a man who was serious. He was a man who was dedicated to keeping this country safe. And he was Vice President when 9/11 happened. And the seriousness with which he took that America would defeat radical Islamic terrorists was extraordinary. He was up early every morning, 4 or 5 a.m. every morning, and working diligently to keep Americans safe. There are Americans who are alive today because of just how vigorously he pursued our enemies. And my condolences, my prayers are with the entire Cheney family, who are losing their patriarch and losing a public servant who made a real difference.
Yeah, just a giant American figure of the last 30 years. You hear that resume in Washington, D.C. It doesn't quite get more stellar than that. Youngest chief of staff in American history to Gerald Ford, congressman out of Wyoming, former defense secretary, and then vice president of the United States. And what really is remarkable about Dick Cheney is that unlike pretty much every other vice president in American history, he never actually had pretensions to move on and level up to the president's position. It was never even a thought that he would run after George W. Bush was president of the United States. And listen, he's a big political figure and a part of history. And that means there will be a lot of commentary about him, good and bad, reflections on decisions that he made. I don't think it can be challenged, though, that he loved this country and he did what he thought was best post 9/11, post the worst attack on our homeland in this country's history. There will be plenty of time to discuss that and analyze his decisions, and it will be one for the history books. A giant figure lost today at the age of 84. And when you hear that number, this is what struck me. I know it's weird, and I'm weird, and you might think that I'm, always thinking about news and politics, but I always try to think about the human level of the story. And here's what's weird about where we are now in our culture and our society. 84 years old sounds young to me, right? It's like 80. It's like, wow. Gosh, he died at 84. That seems right. Am I the only one who's like that? Like, I lost my dad earlier this year. He was just about to turn 88. And even then I was like, wow, it's like 90 is the new 70 or something. We're all thinking about that. We're all thinking about how long we can live because we love our lives. We love our families. We don't want to go anywhere. And that brings our conversation to the question of longevity in general. Let's bring in our good friend, Kim Bright, founder of Brightcore, whose focus is health, whose focus is longevity. And first, am I weird that I see Dick Cheney, who's just been a giant in our lives since the mid-70s, for crying out loud? When I see that he passes at 84, I almost feel like, wow, he could have got another decade out of that. That's like seems young now.
I don't think you're weird. The older I get, and I've never thought that 80 was old, I just never did, even as a child, but I'll be 71 soon. So yeah, it's young to me. 84 is young.
Vice President Cheney had a history of heart problems. We knew quite a bit about those conditions during his time as vice president. He had many episodes there, and he died due to complications of cardiac arrest and pneumonia. This is something that's weighs on a lot of people's minds, I think, especially if they find out there's people in their family who have a history of circulatory issues and heart problems.
Yes, I mean, so many people, life expectancy is a big topic, Larry. And it's been here's the bad news. Life expectancy has been going down since 2019 and through 2021. And it's not just because of the COVID shot. It's, all prescription drugs. So many of us are on, well, I shouldn't say so many of us, I'm not on any, but all prescription drugs are contributing to the shortening of our lifespans. People don't understand that these are killing us in large numbers. You're talking about, studies and things that have been done that show antibiotics are going to shorten your lifespan. They did a study over in Australia at University of Flinders, and they showed that when you start to take antibiotics at an early age, you're going to shorten the lifespan because it changes the microbiome in your gut. And even heartburn drugs, those are so prevalent in our society now. They're called proton pump inhibitors, especially. There's different ones, but these are commonly prescribed. These are prescription drugs that are prescribed to people with acid reflux. And then this increases early death from any cause. It's causing all kinds of problems. And it really shows, how every area of health is tied back to the gut. Because what happens is when you take antibiotics, you have a problem where there's a highly contagious bacterium that thrives in your gut that really attacks so many areas of your body. And it's really incredible how bad these drugs are affecting us, and so many people are on it.
It's very surprising because I think people just sort of assume that through medical breakthroughs and technology and quality of life issues, we just assume that life expectancy will continue to be extended year after year, decade after decade. But the numbers don't lie. It has gone down, actually, for the first time in quite some time. And what you're raising here about pharmaceuticals and antibiotics, all of these drugs are sold to the American people with quite the opposite guarantee. We're promised that this is going to make our lives better, take away everything that ails us, and actually extend our lives. You're telling me that the evidence suggests otherwise.
Big time. I mean, if you think about it, if you look at the actual studies and you look at Like, for instance, the people over in Korea, they live 5 to 6 years longer than we do. They're not taking as many pharmaceuticals. If you look at areas we use the most in this country, and as we're aging, the two things that we have to worry about, Larry, the most are our heart and our brain. And there's so many prescription medications that are designed to address these specific areas, you know. And now people are dealing with early onset dementia, Alzheimer's disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. And what most people don't realize is that your risk of all these diseases is directly related to your gut microbiome diversity. And if you're going to live to be, if you want to live to be a centenarian, you know, to live to be over 100 years old, you look at those people, they've been less susceptible to infectious diseases, chronic inflammation, and age-related illnesses. And these properties, they're attributed to their distinct gut microbial structure. So the number one thing that you've got to pay attention to is to protect yourself, increase that microbiome diversity by eating kimchi. Don't just pound down the pharmaceuticals. I mean, these guys, they've got an agenda, you know, you make lots of money keeping us on pharmaceuticals. When you go and concentrate on your own health and fix your gut, you're cutting off that money towards all the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, the last time we talked, you mentioned these microbiomes and gut and kimchi and all of that stuff, and it's like I'm totally intrigued by what talk about the imbalance that goes on, because I keep hearing that. I keep hearing about the gut health imbalance or microbial imbalance. What is that?
Well, we're born with fungus. We're born with viruses. We're born with bad bacteria. We're born with things like this that God put there in order to, when we're going to die, the body gets to be broken down by these little critters back to the earth. But what happens is when we are taking things like antibiotics, when we're taking things like, you know, the acid blockers, when we're taking too much aspirin, when we're taking too many other pharmaceuticals, it's killing off the good bacteria in our microbiome. And you upset that whole village of entities, if you will, and the bad guys take over, and you're going to get sick more often. And especially as you're aging, you're going to become more susceptible to viruses, fungus, like candida that you just can't rid of. And then as you're getting older, you start to pick up parasites. Even as a child, you know, you're playing out in the dirt, you don't wash your hands, parasites are coming in. You've got to keep that gut healthy, and you have so many symptoms that you aren't even aware of what the cause is that's causing you to be sick and out of balance.
Yeah.
The key is keeping that balance, Larry, in our gut, because the gut is connected to every single thing in our body. The gut is connected to our heart, our brain, our kidneys, our liver, everywhere, to our skin. Everywhere the gut is connected.
And you just mentioned Korea and kimchi, and I love kimchi. Korean barbecue is like one of it, but I don't, you know, I don't have a jar of kimchi every day. In Korea, they do. What is it about kimchi in particular that has this this antimicrobial effect?
Well, because it has over 900 very unique good guys, good bacteria, and it's been known for ages. It's been around for centuries. It's battling all the bad guys. It also has so many heart benefits. It's been known to reduce blood glucose, triglycerides, blood pressure. So these incredible heart benefits that it has. And, you know, there's just so many benefits consuming kimchi. And that's why we wanted to create something that people would take on an everyday basis. Like you just referred to, you're not going to eat kimchi every day.
No.
Over in Korea, they eat it every day. Some people eat it with every meal. But in America, our taste buds aren't made for that. So we had to come up with a way. How can we get these incredible benefits that are going to keep your gut in balance, which then keeps all the rest of your body healthier? All your organs, your brain, everything. How are we going to get people to take that every day without the odor, the mess, the taste, worrying about going out and getting it or making it themselves? So we put it in a capsule, and it's easy to consume on a daily basis. And also people that are on low sodium diets that can't eat kimchi, we've taken virtually almost all the sodium out. And this is incredible because it's helping so many people.
And this is the kind of thing, this is a daily supplement. What you need for it to be effective is to take it daily. Is that the idea? It sounds like it.
Well, it is. It's a food. It's a food. And just like you eat daily, you include this food. Even though it's in a capsule, we've been able to capture all of its benefits in a capsule. And, it's helping people. I'm telling you, people that went to the bathroom once a week, twice a week, and thought they were normal, they're now going every day. They're not bloated. They're not constipated anymore. And so many people, their energy levels are going up. People aren't getting sick like they used to anymore. And they're active and they're living life to its fullest. They don't have chronic fatigue. When you're on all of these pharmaceuticals and you're just on this downward spiral, you don't feel good. And you just keep taking more and more. If you do something naturally and you promote what God put there is our good microbiome and you keep that healthy, you're also going to reduce obesity. People are losing weight. They found they couldn't lose it any other way. They don't have to use Ozempic and all that other, pharmaceuticals again. Yeah. This actually balances them out and they're losing weight. They're improving the quality of their skin and hair, Larry. And they're not only feeling younger with all this energy, they actually are looking younger.
Well, and the good news is all of my viewers and my listeners, they can get Kimchi One right now, like immediately, and they get a great discount, right? Let's throw that up there and get everyone the information. It's mybrightcore.com/Larry. You made it really easy. It's my name. That's also the name of the show. And if they use my name, Larry, they get a 25% off immediately on that first order. But I understand there's a bigger discount that people can get too if they call in. Is that right?
Well, yes, Larry, because I've been educating people how to stay healthy and use natural ways for almost 50 years now. So we like to talk to people. We have a very educated staff, and I think people enjoy talking to actual people these days. Yeah. So we encourage them to call in and give them.
I love that.
Yeah,
I think that's great because so many things, it's like it's all, AI or chatbots, or they got some, phone center, God knows where. And you're like, no, give us a call. We want to teach you. We want to tell you about this, answer any questions you've got. I love that.
Yeah, it's like old times, and so we encourage them to call in to 888-462-4779 to get up to 50% off their order. Plus, we're going to throw in free shipping only when you call now. And the first 100 callers, we're going to give you a free bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2. Again, that's 888-462-4779. And that vitamin D3 and K2 really is helpful to keep you healthy, with the fall and winter upon us. And that's just going to help your body more. So call 888-462-4779 and talk to our friendly people and ask your questions and make sure this is the right product for you.
That's awesome. And you got a gift there for them for the first 100 callers. And I appreciate that because, I've heard that last time we had a conversation, you got a lot of our viewers and listeners calling in, and they're on the program now, which is fantastic because I want you to keep our audience healthy and living longer. And the longer they live, the longer they get to watch. And we have our little community going with our show as long as we can. That's great. This is a win-win across the board.
Yeah, let's make 84 middle age.
Exactly.
How about that idea?
Let's go. Let's outlive everyone. Kim, it's always great to talk with you. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a blessed day, Larry.
You guys, I want to remind you one more time, it's mybrightcore.com/Larry. That's the web way of doing it. 25% off with my name as the offer code, LARRY. But give them a call. They're really nice people. And they want to talk to you. They want to find out what's going on in your life. What do you want fixed that you want to give them a call and find out, and they'll have lots of ideas for you. But they want to educate you on the product, and they also want to know what's going on with your health. So that number is 888-462-4779, up to 50% off and free shipping. In the first 100, get those free vitamin D3 plus K2s. Excellent. And that's a wrap for today's show. I tried to say, remember when Rush Limbaugh used to call Barack Obama, the reaction from the media, and Obama, was it Obamaism? Oh, help me out, chat.
I think that's right.
Was it an Obasm? Obama?
Obamaism, I think, was right.
Obama. It's like an orgasm. They were trying to call it. It was like a Barack orgasm, but it was an Obamism. Anyway, that's what we have to do. Everyone, I've been reading the chat during the last segment, and apparently people are outraged that I thought Nancy Pelosi at one time was kind of hot.
I mean, that is upsetting to me as well.
Have you seen young Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
You know,
she looks like crazy eyes young Hillary Clinton. I bet you had the hots for her too.
Until Meredith, that was my type.
This isn't something you should tell people.
Well, no one's watching. That's a wrap for today's show. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. It's election day. We're a little punchy. It's going to be a late night. I'm doing the New York Post two-way election night coverage tonight over at the two-way platform here on this channel where you're watching us with Mark Halperin and a whole host of political analysts. So that's at 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's going to be a late night election night coverage. So tune in for that, won't you? I know a lot of you came to find this show from my appearances over on Two Way on the morning meeting and on Two Way tonight. So I'll be there doing election night coverage. And they need their token Republican, right? That's me. Stumble Boots with the $2 super chat. You're cool, Stumble Boots, even though you scare me now with your new avatar. Clippy. Jeff Depew with the $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Republicans will only win if it's too big to rig. We never win close elections. That is true. If it's not close, they can't cheat. God's best friend with the £2 super chat. Israeli deep state is imploding. Look into it. Would that be the Israeli deep state here in America or over in Israel? I love the Israeli deep state, the shallow state, the wide state, the narrow state, the high state. I'm a big fan of that country. Stephanie Foster, $20 super chat. I absolutely love you in this show. Wow. Well, that seemed really genuine and sincere, and I'm not used to that because I live in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Stephanie. Did you give us that compliment before I said young Nancy Pelosi was kind of hot? Just checking. Thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate your support. God's best friend with a £2 super chat. Before you distribute wealth, please create it. Yeah, exactly. They have no idea how to create wealth, but they do know how to take it from you and then distribute it. And how much of it ends up in their pocket. It's remarkable. Rick Cassidy, Colt 45, $4.99 super chat. When, not if, New York City fails financially, President Trump should state no bailouts. He's kind of already said that. He said that in the interview with Nora O'Donnell, didn't he? Patrick, £5 super chat. Mrs. Thatcher, oh, God bless that woman, said the problem with socialists is that they quickly run out of other people's money. One of her greatest lines ever. Thatcher, Reagan, and JP2. Thank you, Patrick, for the £5 super chat and the memory of Maggie. Melinda Foster with a $1.99 super chat and sort of the tousled blonde hair look. That's like Marilyn Monroe looking there, Melinda. Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. I'm not flirting. I'm just pointing it out. Obviously, my type is not a beautiful woman like Melinda. It's a young Nancy Pelosi. Kevin, I'm sorry, I can't shake it. I'm sorry. I'm a little punchy. Retired Nana. And I love that dog. That is a rat dog, isn't it? $5 super chat. Pardons are recommended by people who look into why they were incarcerated. Trump doesn't know because pardons are based on recommendation. It was also an unrecognizable name. It was a foreign name of some dude who was involved in crypto. But a good point as well, retired Nana. Thank you. God's best friend, £2 super chat. Gaza to send humanitarian aid to Mexico. I love that every time we have a story about poverty in America or some sort of third world condition in America, God's best friend always says that Gaza is going to be sending aid there. It's a good running gag, GBF. I appreciate it. Psychological projectionist with the £5 super chat. How do we jump to the conclusion that a man who was to be led off stage didn't know every one of the 4,000 plus he pardoned? Good question, Abby. They're really the journalists don't come along every day like Abby Phillips. We are blessed to have her walk amongst us right now at this time, at this moment in world history. Thank you, PP. Melinda Foster back with a $9.99 super chat. What are the specific requirements to receive SNAP benefits? Breathing, I think. Breathing, vote Democrat, and preferably be a citizen of a foreign land. I think you need to be single. I think it's single mothers, and I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. Because even when I was poor, and I was poor at one time in my life, I refused to get benefits. I was eligible for benefits. When I lived in New York, ironically, I was eligible to receive state and federal benefits to help make ends meet, and I refused to. I ate ramen and $1 slices of cheese pizza for about 4 months and got into shape by walking instead of taking the subway wherever I went because I couldn't afford the token. Yes, back then there were tokens. And I walked uphill both ways in the snow. Jeff DePew, Sr. Is there a Jeff DePew Jr.? And where the hell is he? $2 super chat. MSM is why Democrats get away with their lies. Yeah, well, in fact, they participate in the lies. Many cases, they write the lies for the Democrats. They work together. Thank you, Jeff. Good observation. Kel P. Sorry, I'm hydrating. $4.99 super chat from Kel P. The hands thing must run in the family and be contagious when you marry in. Nancy, Gavin, Gavin's wife. Yeah, I noticed that too. It's like they all go to the same political consultant or something. But Gavin's is just so trained and measured in just bizarro land, like he's on something. Good observation, Kel. Thank you for that. Is that it for our super chats? That's well into it. And we had a very long show. I apologize. 4 big segments today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Share our episode with friends if you don't mind. And if you've got someone in one of these jurisdictions that has not voted, please make an effort to go get them to vote, unless they're a commie, and then, go shut off the power in their house. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with results of the elections, crossing fingers and saying lots of prayers. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.